Welcome back to Before You Do with Verlyn. I'm your host and favorite premarital coach and the auntie you didn't know you needed. Today's topic is truly a fascinating one. Women are not always right. Now, before you click or before you turn it off, just give me a few minutes of your time. Ladies, somebody has to say it. As much as we'd like to think that this is a true statement, we are not always right. Okay? And I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. First of all, as you know, we talk about all things what we should know before we get married. And so one of the misconceptions, happy wife, happy life, that is an error. I'm not saying that the wife should not be happy. What I'm saying is happy spouse, happy house. And the misconception that women are always right, it is just that. It's a misconception. And we're just going to take a few minutes to talk about this because in any relationship, one of the first things we have to know is we have to own what we do. And that's whether it's right or wrong. Being wrong does not make the person wrong. It could be a wrong choice of words, a wrong action. Being wrong doesn't make you a wrong woman or a bad wife or a horrible spouse. It simply means we need to take ownership of what we do, what we say, and those things are not right. My family and I, and this is what prompted me to do this. We took a little time away and I did something that I never do. And that is I just kind of binge watched TV and I got a real clear understanding of why we as women think that we're always right. And that no matter what, the man is always wrong. I watched two shows that stood out to me to the point that I actually started taking notes because I was like, this cannot be possible. And I'm not going to name the show because nobody's paying me to advertise, right? And so in one of the shows, it was a husband and a wife. The husband was working from home. He worked in his garage. He had a home business and everything he did in his studio was in his garage, which was attached to his house. The wife was forced to take leave because she had a certain amount of days that, you know how they say, use it or lose it. And so she was off for a couple of days. Again, he worked and he worked from his studio in the home. She was bored. She didn't know what to do with her time. She could not preoccupy herself. And what she did was she came up with this schedule for her next day off. She wanted the husband to take her shopping, to go to lunch, to do all these things. And he made it very clear that she was off. He was not, that he had to keep working. So to make a long story short, she basically caught an attitude. The first error was she went and talked to her girlfriend and was basically boo-hooing about how he wouldn't spend time with her on her days off because she needed to be occupied, as if she was not a grown woman enough to figure out to do some things by herself or take some me time, but to respect the fact that he had to work. So, of course, the girlfriend gives her all these ridiculous ideas. And so she decides to show up scantily clad, I'll clean that up, in his garage office, not knowing that in the background that some young boys that he was working with on this project were in the background. So she couldn't see them, but they could see her. So she has her coat on. She opens up her coat. She's like, basically trying to get him to stop work and spend the day with her. And of course, she was very embarrassed when she realized that some of his workers were sitting in the back and he carried her out. And so I'm saying to myself, wow, I'm sure she learned a lesson not to do that again. But as the show progressed, she had an attitude. She was angry at him because she was embarrassed that the young fellas, well, teenagers, saw her doing what she was doing and she blamed him. And I'm saying to myself, I know this is TV, but just the fact that it was put in that way and the husband spent the next couple of days trying to make up for it, trying to get her flowers, trying to figure out what to do. She had this attitude because in her mind, she expected him to take off automatically because she was off. She expected him to keep her company because she didn't want to figure out ways to keep herself occupied. And then she showed up in his workplace, scantily clad, right? She gets mad at him because he's got people that he's working with. So everything pointed to he was wrong and she was a victim. And so as I began to unpack this, I said, wow, when you get enough of media, social media, cable, radio, everything telling us women that we're always right and that the man is always wrong and he needs to make things right, then subconsciously we begin to think that that is truth, even though it's error. Okay. Again, if you hear a lie long enough, you will believe that it is true. And so I'm waiting for the show to unfold. Unfortunately, the cable went out or the internet went out, so I don't know how it ended. I can't even tell you. When I last watched it, she had the attitude. He was trying to fix her breakfast and appease. He got her flowers, and she just maintained his attitude because she was embarrassed because she showed up in an inappropriate way on his job during the work time. And I'm sitting here, I'm not the one that can just sit and watch TV. I'm going to analyze everything and I'm going to come up with something that makes sense or something that doesn't make sense. That's just what I do. This influence that we have been given as women, where we really wholeheartedly think that it doesn't matter what we do, we are right, that the man is supposed to appease us. And even when we're wrong, we're supposed to apologize. And I was able to unpack so many things. The fact that she didn't want to keep herself occupied, the fact that she did not respect his work space, she did not respect his work time, and that she showed up the way she did, in addition to the fact that he made it very clear that he would not be able to take off, that he had to work. And really, after that, there should have been no conversation, no coercion, no type of influence. She should have just respected that. But then to get mad at him as if it were his fault. And I began to think, wow, how many times do we do that? How many times have we put ourselves in situations with our husband or our fiance, and it's really on us where we need to take responsibility, but we don't because we get embarrassed or our feelings get hurt. And instead of owning it, we sit around waiting for the man to try to make up. We expect the man to apologize, whether they've done something or not, which leads me to the next show. I saw another show, and it was a young man who was married, and he was talking to his mother and father-in-law, which their daughter was married to him, and he was saying how she had done something really ridiculous, right? But she was mad at him because he called her out on it. The mother-in-law said, basically, you need to go and apologize. And he's like, why? It wasn't me. She did A, B, C, and D. She was wrong. She said, it doesn't matter. It's your job as the husband to go and apologize to your wife. And I'm like, wow. His father-in-law is in the background because the boy is saying, it wasn't my fault. She was wrong. And he said, it doesn't matter. And he goes on to say, well, yeah, I was right. She was wrong. And the father-in-law says, it doesn't matter. And of course, it's a comedy show and everybody's laughing in the background. But basically, they double teamed him and told him it does not matter what she did. It does not matter that it was not his fault. What matters is he is supposed to apologize to her. And I had to sit with that thing for a moment because I have sons. And I have to think, is this the advice that I would want someone telling my son? It's certainly not the advice I would tell my sons, that it doesn't matter. Just because you're the man and you're the husband, you need to apologize when it's very clear that the woman or the wife was the culprit. We need to really rethink things that we've been taught and all the ways that we assume are right. And we need to sit with that and ask ourselves, is that how you want your son to be treated by another woman? That it doesn't matter what she does. He's supposed to be the one to apologize to it and to accept the responsibility. It does not work like that. It should not work like that. And as a matter of fact, that's why it's not working. You wonder why relationships are falling apart, why people can get together, but they can't stay together, because we have to own our stuff. And we can't expect that the man is going to always be wrong and we are always right no matter what we do. That is and untruth. And I tell you, it is something that we probably don't even recognize is embedded in us. I can speak for myself. Years ago, it doesn't matter what I would hear if someone said, oh, so and so broke up. I didn't always say it, but I thought it. I wonder what he did. How many of us, even now, we hear that our girlfriend and her husband broke up or a couple broke up? Women, what is the first thing we usually think? What did he do? I still, as much as I've grown, I don't say it out loud, but it depends on the situation. That is the first thing that will pop in my mind. What did he do? But then I'll come back to myself, right? And I'll say, okay, I wonder what happened. But that's not the first thought for most of us. Most of us think when we hear of a breakup or divorce, I guarantee you, we think, what did the man do? It had to be the man's fault. I know it wasn't the woman. That is a fallacy. We've got to get past that. We've got to be able to look at things with our logic and understand what's right, what's wrong, what is error, what is correct. And in this, the first show I mentioned, what I noticed, the wife was constantly emotional. Everybody has emotions. I'm not against that. We are women. We have emotions. Men have emotions. Anger is an emotion. All right. What I'm saying is this: our emotions should not control us to the fact that we throw all logic out of our brain and just say and do things that are ridiculous. And that's what she did. She showed up to his job inappropriately dressed, but she blamed him because he was working and had people in his office. Where is the logic in that? And she was upset and she was crying and mad. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who wrote this script? That's what I wanted to say. Am I saying women are always wrong? Absolutely not. I am saying that each case needs to be looked at fairly. And that's what this is about. It's about being fair. It's not about being emotional. It's not about the apology per se. It's first about ownership. And ladies, we've got to do better at holding ourselves and other ladies accountable, because when I think about this show, her best friend should have called her out and say, you know what? People got to work. Be thankful that the man has a job and that he's working. Go find something to do. Go get your nails. Go read a book, right? Go do something with your life and not expect that because you're off, your husband has to immediately take off and come and step into your world. Okay? The best friend had to work too. And what I'm saying is this: a real friend would have told her the truth and said, go do something with yourself. It is unfair that you expect that your husband is supposed to drop everything he's doing and to cater to you. It is unfair that you are angry at him because he can't take off when you can. If we are a friend, we need to be speaking truth. We don't need to speak to anybody's ego. We don't need to speak to anyone's emotions. She should have said, pull yourself together and go, like I like to tell my children, read a book. Go see a movie. Go take a nap. Go do something. Leave the man alone and let him work. Right? What happens if he had taken off and hung out and then got fired? Then you would have had a whole nother separate set of, issues, things to argue about. And these are TV shows I have referenced. However, let's face it, in real life, we understand that this is true. That's why we say happy wife, happy life. What? That doesn't even sound right. That doesn't sound fair. That puts us in the mindset that it's all about me. It's not about us. That as long as I'm happy, the whole house is happy. No, both spouses create a happy house. Y'all thought I was going to say houses? Ladies, we have to consider who we count as friends. We need to hear truth from people who are not just rooting for us because we're their friends, but care about our relationships and care enough for us to tell us the truth instead of having these biased opinions because we are friends, okay? They used to say, what is the saying? Real friends don't let friends drive drunk, right? We need to think about that. We should not be giving our friends advice that works contrary to helping us have successful relationships. We need to call each other out. We need to hold each other accountable. It doesn't matter if it's something small or something huge. I'm a firm believer how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so when it comes to holding your friends accountable for small things in their relationships, that's what you need to do so that when the big things come along, we as women will be accountable for our actions, that we will be accountable for ourselves. Again, this is a grown woman. She should have been able to occupy herself for a few days without demanding that her husband had to take off. How does this translate in real life? It translates as follows. Right is right, wrong is wrong. We are responsible for our own actions, ladies. We must hold ourselves accountable and to a high standard. Being a wife is not about me, and everything I want. Being a wife is being a helpmate. Being a wife is being a fair partner. Being a wife is about being a woman who is able to be accountable. And I'll say that over and over because there are times we lack accountability. We need to own our stuff. If we're wrong, we need to own it. We don't have anything that says we must be perfect all the time. No. Being a wife does not mean we are not flawed. We are all flawed. We all make mistakes, and that is okay. Doing something that's annoying, maybe being selfish from time to time, all these are things we have to work on. Admitting them doesn't make us a bad woman. It doesn't make us a bad wife. It just means we're owning our stuff and we're going to figure out how to navigate and be a better person, to be a better wife. The idea is that you have two imperfect people coming together who hopefully are perfect for each other. And in the interim, you're working through things. However, you can't work through anything. You can't be better if you don't first own and admit the truth. We must get out of the mindset that the woman or the wife is always right. We must get out of the mindset and the assumption that the man is always wrong. I cannot stress that enough. Thank you for watching. My website is verlyntarlton.com. I am in the midst of really exciting times because I'm planning some courses on how to be seen, ladies. If you're one of the ladies that's saying, you know what, I'm out and about, men are not approaching me like they used to, or I don't feel seen, maybe you don't feel attractive, it's okay. I'm working on a course that's going to deal with that, deal with the inner woman and the outer woman, okay? Because we're talking about being married. Let's talk about getting some dates, okay? Moving towards being married. And I'm also working on some other program. I always have my pre-marriage coaching, all right? I'm going to update that on my website. But I got some good stuff coming up. So visit verlyntarlton.com. I have a great couples vision board, and that is something you can download as a template where you can come together with your person. You can figure out, do we want children? How many? What do we have in terms of financial goals? Where do we want to live? What do we want to accomplish? Okay. What is your role, or what part do you plan to play in this marriage? That's something that we need to do. We need to come to the table and create a vision board for this marriage. Beyond the wedding day, we need to be planning for life, okay? And there are other freebies, affirmation cards, 25 things that I didn't know or that you should know before you get married. And I have a digital magazine. So visit my website, get those free downloads, order a copy of the Couples Vision Board. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining the conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next week, may you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.